Leicester City are reportedly keeping tabs on Sporting Lisbon manager.
Yeah, it's a very short intro. I've only got little hands. Right. Hello and welcome to episode 18 of the First4LCFC Podcast. And following a week where our fortunes have seemingly been turned completely on their head, as last week I was on this podcast, we were coming off the back of a great win against Liverpool and heading into the Europa League full of optimism. But fast forward and we've crashed out of Europe and we're convincingly beaten in our last league game and picking up some pretty serious injuries along the way. So with me to discuss and hopefully give us all a bit more optimism is both Krys and Edward Nunn. How are you both?
Ooh, that's a new one. I'm good, Jamie, but I was expecting having to be, I've been called my real name a few times recently on the podcast, and you got through Edward, and I thought, oh, this is new, but yeah, you gave it a bash and fair play.
I don't believe for a second that he didn't have a script and he hasn't been thinking about the introduction all day. There's no way that's not sporadic.
I definitely thought about building him up to knock him down with the surname. But
you got me. You got me. Fair play. Nice to have you back, James.
See, I just go for nice little, good-humoured play on your name. Whereas, what did you introduce me as last week, despite not being on it?
Jamie, was it?
No, it was. It wasn't very pleasant. It was a swear word, but I don't swear. This is a family show. Away from the nonsense, we usually leave that until the end. Let's have a chat about everything that's gone on, because it's been pretty desolate feeling for Leicester fans up and down the country, I'd imagine, if you're anything like me, because a few weeks ago I was actually feeling quietly confident about finishing in the top four, making the Champions League, and actually even when we got knocked out of the Europa League, I thought maybe even a silver lining, but thanks to some pretty big injuries, not exactly feeling confident now. But Krys, how are you feeling about our chances of making the top four?
It's a very tough question to open with, Jamie. But how am I feeling right now is worried and a great sense of deja vu, almost, in terms of, obviously last season's breakdown, if you like, started a lot sooner, didn't it? It was around the Christmas time, and then we were really dropping points against some very questionable sides, and it just totally went all wrong by the end of the season when it was losing 4-1 away at Bournemouth or something. But in all honesty, I think a lot of Premier League sides, or at least the ones the media speak about, notoriously Liverpool, will be dealing with injury issues. I think it's the nature of this season. I think it was always bound to happen. So there's a bit of me that's thinking, well, what makes Leicester City so special? Why would we not suffer these injury sort of problems? So I don't know. You got to take it with a pinch of salt, 'cause I think it is something that is a factor of the modern game. But to be really negative, as I'm well known for, I think I'm more negative really about the fact we dropped out of Europe, and ironically we're speaking, or I'm answering the question of, do you think we'll make top four? Do I think we deserve top four? Probably not. Do I think we'd embarrass ourselves in the Champions League? Someone would be very good to argue against that, because I'm not sure we would. I think if we're getting found out in the knockout stages of the Europa League against the second tier of European sort of opponents, what makes us think that we're going to go into Champions League and even get out of the group stage and then not even have an even worse season trying to compete in the league in the early parts of the season?
Do you take that game against or the two games even against Prague as...
Don't call them Prague. Did you not listen last week,
obviously
Jamie?
Didn't listen.
Sorry, but educate me. What should it be?
It's just like the Milan thing. You have to call them Slavia, because Prague is like calling Inter or AC and getting them all mixed up like that.
Okay, well, apologies to Slavia, except to all those fans who messaged me being extremely happy that they've beaten us in the like of in the way.
Interestingly, actually, because we haven't actually spoke about this even off there. Did you get a lot of absolute pelters off the back of that second leg?
There were a few blocks handed out.
That's beautiful because then people have obviously, made a note of your profile, a mental note at least, and then they've, as soon as the final whistle blown, gone straight in on you. That's fantastic.
Credit to the guy who one guy messaged me at 80 minutes. He was like, "No, game's done, lads. Like, just I'm going all in on you already," which was fair enough. Although I technically never said anything wrong against them, I just highlighted the video more than anything. But anyway, look, that's beside the point. I was trying to say the 2 legs against Slavia. Do you think that is an accurate reflection of where we stand in the footballing pyramid? Because especially in the second leg, I thought we looked tired. We were suffering with injuries. You could tell that certain players had played a lot of minutes in. The lineup that Rodgers was almost forced to put out was never really going to be one that was going to break a team down. I mean, if you look at the players they left on the bench or that weren't in the squad, is it truly an accurate reflection of how we would stack up against other teams in Europe?
You've got to look at it this way, Jamie. Like, where would Slavia be if they were an English team? Like, there's no way of answering that. Fair enough, it's a difficult question, but the point being, our mixed 11, if you like, I'm not going to say B team because I don't think it was, should be beating them over 2 legs. Let's put it that way. We didn't turn up for 2 legs. What was the net shots over 2 legs on target? Like 3, I guess. I don't know, probably more. But the point being, we had 180 minutes to put them under pressure, and all I can think of is probably that 15 minutes midway through the second half in the first leg is where we looked threatening for a substantial period of time. So my point being, say we get drawn in a group, well, because we'll be 4th seeds because of our coefficient in the Champions League. Realistically, barring a freak draw, we're going to be playing teams better than Slavia, and we're going to have to somehow break them down. So, and I'm not sure if you've got the stats hand, but isn't it Rodgers has never got past the last 32 of a European competition or something ridiculous like that? Obviously it's not Rodgers' fault, but ultimately there's just something, the mix between the squad and the manager that, how many Leicester fans would have predicted that we wouldn't have got through? So, even if you ask the Leicester City fan, okay, a 70% full strength team with the fatigue that you expect in February, will we beat Slavia? You're getting a poll result of about 90 saying yes, convincingly. So there's something going wrong there for me.
Ed, is that something that you would agree with? I mean, my thoughts on it are that, this is knockout. This is the nature of knockout football in its essence, that not every game is played on paper, as it were. I mean, you look at some of the other results. I mean, Tottenham weren't exactly on particularly good form heading into this, and yet they've scored 4 against Wolfsburg. But I wouldn't say that was an accurate reflection of them as a team. But, I mean, what do you make of it? Do you think that Leicester's standing in Europe, perhaps we need to reevaluate our position?
I think, and I've said this to you guys in the chat previously, I think this is more of a strength in depth issue. Like, I think on occasions where we have everyone fit and in form, our first 11, other than perhaps Man City and Liverpool when they have their best 11 out, I don't think anyone else in the league is, that much better than us. We are at worst competitive with the traditional big boys. Like, our first 11 is excellent. However, I see this Slavia issues as being based on the fact that we don't have this sort of depth and quality. As soon as we lose a couple of key players, who's coming in? Yeah, obviously they're good footballers, but it's such a big drop off. So if we look at, I've got the team that played Slavia in front of me now, and yes, like we say, we should be beating Slavia. I was sort of couldn't have said this more times and been more confident on last week's podcast going into it. But you look at the core of the first team regulars in the team: Schmeichel, Evans, Soyuncu, Ndidi, Tielemans and Vardy. Like, no disrespect to Slavia, they are absolutely quality players that are significantly better than anyone in the Slavia squad or anyone they play against on a regular basis in the Czech league, and near enough all the players they play against on a regular basis in Europe. But look at the other players who were part of the team. Amati, I don't need to say what I think about him. He's lost his way after a promising start. Chowdhury is a number 10. That's an odd one. Mark Albrighton, he was good 5 or 6 years ago. And Luke Thomas, possibly one for the future. But this is 5 out of 11. It's near enough half the team in knockout stage football that that's weak. And yes, I still would look at that and think we should be competitive and we should be favourites against this team. And yes, we played poorly. And in the end, Slavia, I've no issues. I always said if we aren't at our best, they've got a chance, and they took that chance. But I'm sort of saying I've not got any qualms really with our first 11, other than perhaps adding one winger to it. There's not much I'd change then. It's when you start losing them key players.
Well, we'll take it one step further though. I don't think it's necessarily a personnel issue. I think it's a style of play issue, because I haven't got the stat to hand, but I'm relatively confident that when we have more possession in a game, our win record is significantly lower still than when we're obviously got less possession. So, for me, the point being that do we adapt to teams that we're going to dominate? Because that's obviously been an issue, like not historically, like in modern times, that we can't say that we feel as confident against teams who are lower down in the table or teams on paper that we should be beating. And I guess it's easy because obviously when times are good and we're going through a real green patch of form, it's great. But then this is still something that is coming up time and time again. So why, with the players we had on the pitch then, we should, like, Vardy's on the pitch, right? But he's literally as good as not on the pitch. He's very vacant.
Who was behind him though? The 3 behind him were under Chowdhury, Albrighton.
I'm looking at this on Flash Scores, which is obviously what you're looking at. I don't think that's true. I don't think, if you've seen a heat map or whatever statistic you want to use, I don't think Chowdhury was playing as a number 10, wasn't it? I mean, realistically, it would have been Tielemans in that sort of position. But, he's come from Roma. Tielemans has obviously proven himself at Leicester. Like Albrighton, say, fair enough, like he's more than anything probably expected to be delivering crosses. But the fact is he wasn't doing that, and Vardy wasn't doing anything at all. And in Vardy, I get the point is that he doesn't need to touch the ball, and he takes one chance to sort of score. But even when he had touches in that game, he doesn't look himself. So why is that?
Yeah. I think. Can I just add one thing, and then we'll go on to the Vardy debate? Like, I'm happy because I think we need to talk about Vardy, but I think if we go into Vardy now, I'm going to miss having a chance to say this. Is that all right?
Go for it.
I'm standing, even though I get what Krys is saying, I'm standing by 100% the personnel issue. Like, the players I named, do they even get into like the 25-man or whatever it is, 22-man squad?
Maddison played away from home and didn't create anything, though.
Yes, but look, these players are the players that we're saying go and knock out a team high in form in the European knockout stages.
We're at home. We've got a perfect pitch. We've got our own surroundings. You are really...
The team's not good enough. Luke Thomas had a good breakout season last year, was linked with a loan move away to the Championship. How many Premier League teams would Amati start for? We play with good fullbacks who get
our goals. You're focusing on defensive issues. We could not create in that game. Amati being right back is not an issue. And if anything, to be fair,
Ricardo one of our most attacking players.
But if you're relying on a wing back to be scoring goals, I'm going out and saying if you've got 6 players ahead of him who can do that as well, then again you're clutching at straws.
Well, look at the players ahead of him. Albrighton, what's he going to create? What's Under going to create? What's Chowdhury going to create? Tillemans
What do you mean? What's Under going to create? His job's a winger. He should be creating.
I mean, I'm saying he should be. Is he? Has he evidenced towards in the last 2 or 3 months that he's going to create something in a match? Is that his role? Absolutely. I'm just saying that these players we've got out at the minute are the best we have got. But
do you not think that's
good enough?
Well, again, based on what you're saying, say we've got the 3rd best squad, which, you know, arguably is, well, not 3rd best squad, 3rd best 11, which I think I was in agreement with not that long ago. Where would you rank our sort of 2nd string team then?
Not mid-table. If we put our second 11 out, week in, week out, in the Premier League, like for whatever reason we were allowed 2 teams, I think they'd be battling out for relegation.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know.
So, earlier on this, I mean, we've had to do this quite a lot. I mean, I picked a game at random from around December where we had another bit of an injury crisis, and we've played the likes of back 4 was Fuchs, Evans, Morgan, and Justin. We had a central pairing of Mendy and Chowdhury behind Perez and Iheanacho. Damari Gray was on the wing. Albrighton's on the other one, and we won that game. But
who was that against?
That was against West Ham, who are flying now. And they had a pretty strong side out. But the point that I think Ed's making is, I completely agree with you about Amati. I actually think he's a solid backup player, but not as a right back. He's not got that ability with the ball, and that not being able to have that out ball from the centre half was one of our biggest issues in the last 2 games. They're happy to let Evans and Soyuncu have the ball, but if they've got nowhere to pass it, then you haven't got that platform, and I think it really does make a massive difference. And you look at the way the injuries have affected us this season. I think at best case scenario, we've been missing 4 players at some point. Well, there were certain games where we had Soyuncu, Evans, Pereira, Castagna, Ndidi, Amati all injured. I mean, it's a miracle we managed to cobble a defence together at all. I mean, you've got the likes of Justin having to play more games than we thought, and to be fair to him, he's been fantastic. Thomas has come in. For Fofana, we probably weren't expecting to get thrown into the team so early, and yet we're still sitting here high up the Premier League, having had what I would describe as being a fantastic season without having our full strength side available at any stage of the season.
I've got a question for you then. So, because Ed quoted on last week's podcast, so you're bang to rights, saying our 2nd string team should be enough to beat Slavia. So how do you explain that if you were that confident that last week that it was going to happen?
Well, I was confident last week because, last week we had Maddison, and I thought he would be an important role.
To be fair, at the time of recording, we did not have Maddison.
Did we not? Okay, right. Well, my issue here is going sort of linked in with Jamie's as well. It's, yes, the players aren't as good, which is obvious because otherwise they'd be first choice. And I get that, and I'm sure they get it as well. But when you change the players, you want to also be able to keep the system that works. And the issue is people like Amati and Albrighton and Chowdhury and Under whatever, they could be decent backup players for certain systems. But what do we like to do as a team? We have a solid, like Ndidi in the 2 centre-backs. Well, take Ndidi out of that early in the season and we're weak. We have 2 attacking wingers. Well, we've at some stage lost at least one of them, if not 2 of them. And the full-back, and the full-backs we've brought in could be Amati, could be Thomas, could be Fuchs. Are they as attacking? Do they offer that pace or the flair that we had before? No. About in attacking positions? We've lost Maddison, who's a key player, and we've brought in Chowdhury. Not the same system out wide. We've lost Barnes, attacking pace.
You knew this was going to be the case last week. What my question being is, you knew we had to line up. Well, you predicted we were going to line up with a slightly weaker team. So why were you so confident we'd still win?
Why? Because I didn't see anything that in the first leg that made me think I'm concerned about them. I thought that what would have been nice, if I get that the two fullbacks are just back from injury, I would have liked to have seen one of them start, preferably in Amarty's place, purely because they're sort of start different styles. So that I would have made that change. But other than that, I think it's more, I would have played a different system, one that actually fit the style of play that we had. And I felt that would have been enough to see the game through. Obviously, we didn't play well over the two legs. We didn't do, like you said, we hardly created anything. So I sort of stand by what I say, but also accept that I've got no qualms with being knocked out. Like I said originally, I thought we're favourites and we definitely should go through. But if we don't, and it's because we've not played as well and they've took their chance, then absolutely fair enough to them.
Well, to be fair, their two goals were, well, I mean, again, they didn't really have a sustained period of pressure in the game, did they? I mean, they took the chances very well. But that's what my point being about Jamie Vardy is that when you've got him on the pitch, he should have one chance, one goal in certain instances, but it didn't look likely, did he?
No. I think this is something which I said as well at the time. I think he's been, since his operation, I think he's been nowhere near the levels that we would expect from him, which shouldn't be a surprise necessarily. I suppose it's quite a big surgery to have, but do you feel that Rodgers has had his hands tied in that he feels he has to play Vardy because of the players that are missing elsewhere? And I mean, because he has admitted after the game against Arsenal that he thought that Vardy picked up a knock in the first half. And I mean, when he went through 1-on-1 with was it Murray at the back, I'd have put my house on him at least getting to the ball first. But Murray caught him up. He's not a quick defender at all. And that
is he faster than us?
That is what I reckon he's. I'll give him a. Let's say yes. Professional sportsman. He's going to be quick. But that's the point, isn't it? We're running on, and it looked like we were running on fumes at the end of the game. I mean, I'm looking down the injury list that we've had this year, and it's staggering. Like, the creativity though is a big worry because you've lost Maddison. You've lost Barnes, so then your backups would be the likes of Pratt and Perez, wouldn't they? Both of them are injured. So then you're looking even further down your list, and who do you rely on? Well, you rely on your fullbacks. Well, big stages this year, Pereira and Castagne have both been injured, so you rely on Justin. He's now injured, and I think that personally, if we manage to get top four despite all these issues, then it's a phenomenal achievement. I think we've massively outperformed.
To be fair, though, as in true Rodgers style, he makes his triple sub. Right, it's not that's not his hallmark, but the fact he waits till 60 minutes. In this instance, he did make a triple substitution. So you're thinking, right, you got half an hour now. Castagne, Pereira, and Barnes, they came on and did next to nothing. So maybe are we just not giving Slavia the respect they deserve? They studied us inside out. They knew where our threats could potentially be, and to be fair, they looked very solid. Like, yeah, you can argue that we didn't trouble them, but is that just because they just generally set up well? It's a big game, not in a disrespectful way, but like English opposition, as John said on our podcast, the Slavia guest last week, saying that that this is they'd love to draw a Premier League team. They got that, and they put themselves on the European map on that night because, in my opinion, I couldn't criticise it the way they turned up. Like, I know in the first leg they would play acting a bit, but it was Hamza Chowdhury who embarrassed us in the second leg with that dive. And, like, to be fair, I just think they played a solid game. Like, yeah, they didn't offer much going forwards, but to be fair, some of their players are definitely be on the scouting books of some probably Premier League scouts because they have got some talent in that squad as well. So credit to them, I think, as well.
Yeah, I thought that they played very well. Go on, Ed.
I was just thinking, like, or Man City have scored. According to Flash scores, I don't know who it was. But I also worry not even just about the injuries we've got, but also like if we've just got Vardy and defenders do not have to worry about the likes of Maddison and Barnes because they're injured. Well, does that not just mean there's a lot less things for them to worry about so they can focus more on Vardy, which can then nullify his threat even more? I don't know if I'm overthinking this, but
Well, I don't know about that because, like I say, you look at him against Arsenal, and that was the first time he got played in over the top, and I just thought to myself, is this the beginning of? Well, not the beginning, the end. I mean, that sounds awfully negative, but like I was shocked that he didn't outpace their defender in that instance, and like the fact is that is as good a chance as he can rely on. That is his sort of bread and butter, to be fair. And I don't really agree that he was being like marked out of the game or anything like that because I don't think he really it hasn't felt like he's really been offering himself as an option in that final third. Like Jamie says, there's no outball from the back, but if especially if you're losing in a game, as we were against Slavia, why is he not coming, to the ball and trying to get involved a bit more?
I think he's going to have to change his game a bit. Like I think the traditional Jamie Vardy is of course playing on the last man and someone threading the ball through, but other than Tielemans and then wide balls from our fullbacks, like where do you think with the current team we have available, the creative balls to put Vardy in are going to come from?
I don't think it necessarily has to be. Well, obviously, a creative ball is obviously more of an incisive pass, but I mean, a professional footballer should be able to, to feed the ball to Vardy, or at least Vardy come and show for it a bit more. Is my opinion. I don't know. Like it's difficult. Like you got to look at his chances over the last few weeks, and they have been limited.
But then Vardy comes short to get the ball, and then obviously like someone else would go beyond him to help create a chance. And then at the minute the players going beyond him would be Albrighton, the pacey goal scorer that is, and Under, who's hardly played out of favour, etc. It's not very promising. I think we this whole wingers until Barnes is back. I think we're going to have to forget about it. Personal idea would be let's emphasise what we have got. We've got two hopefully coming back to full fitness, excellent fullbacks who can play at wing back. Let them be creative. Let them make the width and create chances. I think we'd have a much better chance of staying competitive with our current injury list if we were to change the system.
Well, it's all well and good saying that, but then you're rushing them back from, just suddenly starting to play Castagna and Ricardo at 90 minutes week in, week out isn't necessarily going to prevent them from, getting in the red zone, so to speak. Like you are going to realistically, the rest of the season, have to ration out the play-in time, with us still being in the FA Cup as well. Well, I mean, that's a one game thing, but ultimately, it doesn't just mean go out and play your starting 11 because they're still on average two games a week. So are they capable of doing that?
Well, at the minute, evidently not, based on their rotation. But I think those two and Thomas, there's three of them who can play in the wing back roles. Albrighton as well. You can say whether he can play, inverted commas there, I don't know, but he can be in that position on the pitch. So
I do think you are being awfully harsh on Albrighton.
Oh mate, he's not done anything for years.
Totally merited either.
I agree with Krys. I actually think Albrighton's been rather good this year.
Has he?
I'd say so. Yeah, I think he's actually been quite important to how we've played in that fluid shape that Rodgers has liked. I think that he's a lot better with the ball than people give him credit for. I don't think that he's a pure cross merchant as he's made out to be.
Which of the other teams going for top 4 do you reckon he'd get into?
That's not.
It doesn't mean that he's a bad. It doesn't mean.
Oh no, none of them
player.
are bad players. They're professional footballers for a top 8, top 6 Premier League side. They're excellent, but I think if we want to go on to the next level, which I think we do, then he's been an excellent servant, but he's not the level that we need, even as a backup.
I think that's where you go wrong, because I don't think you can have it both ways, because we're never going to go out and achieve a winger that a top 3, top 4 team is going to have. I mean, this is coming from you, the person who outright categorically says Leicester aren't a big team or a big enough team to attract these sorts of players. So we're always going to be shopping in around that 2nd or 3rd tier of the European market, if not the English market, right? We're never going to achieve that sort of player. But what I think you're doing unfairly is therefore not giving Albrighton the credit for putting in a solid, say, 7.5 out of 10, because he's not a Mahrez. He's not a Hazard when he was at Chelsea. Like he's not that sort of player. He's not going to be, he's not going to be ripping up trees with his skills or anything. But I think especially defensively what he's offered, and the fact he's not the youngest anymore, but his work rate is still probably one of the highest in that Leicester City team. And if we're criticising other players like I am, maybe Vardy for not coming in and getting involved as much, or Luke Thomas, who I thought was a bit slack really. You could see Sionchu getting into him on against Slavia, and I felt that you could sort of see that visibly on the pitch. But I think his effort, and I can't necessarily think of times where I was frustrated at Albrighton for giving the ball away or anything, or whipping the ball in too much. If anything, he wasn't doing that enough. So that's where my criticism would be.
My issue with these backup players, and not necessarily with the players themselves, I actually think it's caused by the speed at which we've grown as a club. Like 5 years ago or whatever, maybe more now, but we were lower Premier League, upper Championship team. So, and yes, we every year we've been bringing in 2 or 3 players into the squad who are of unbelievable standard for what we've known during our lifetimes anyway. But there's players who are now backup, who were originally first choice, who are just not the stand. Like, yes, historically, recently, great backups for Leicester City, but players like Fuchs, Albrighton, Morgan, Gray when he was here, Under, like that, they are not backups for a team as loyal as there's been, as great as they've been throughout the last few years. They're not backups for a team that want to get into the Champions League. And it's going to take a few more years, because we, like you say, we're not money bags. We're not just going to get them all. It's not Football Manager. We're not going to get all these players out and all star players in immediately. But that's why I think we're in this challenging position where we are reaching for something amazing, being a regular Champions League team, but sort of on a budget. And this is just sort of a par for the course, I'd say. It's an evolution of our team. And it's just they are. I feel harsh having bad things about these, because they're part of the Premier League winning team, and even other years they've been so loyal. They've tried the heart out. But let's look at it as a business or as a sport now. We need the best if we are wanting to compete with the best. And this sort of loyalty and positive vibes about them, it's not enough.
Okay, well, fair enough, but like the obvious argument would be, why didn't Rodgers just start his strongest team in the hope that by 60 minutes he could take his best players off? Like, I mean, it's a concept.
I think you explained that yourself earlier, Chris, and that he said that he's got to manage the players that would have been that were on the bench were Ricardo, Castagna, and Barnes. 2 of them are coming back from lengthy injury layoffs and need the minutes. And Barnes, he said, had an issue with his knee and he needed managing as well. And I think his hands were tied by the medical team. You could say, yeah, you take them off, get ahead in the game. But what if we weren't ahead in the game until late on. Then you've suddenly played 70, 80 minutes on, and then you go into Arsenal and you've got a headache. And I honestly think the injuries have absolutely hamstrung us, and I will bang that drum. That is the hill I will die. And I think that he's managed his squad really well up until this point, but playing best 11s has not been an option at all throughout the season.
Okay, well, I mean, it's a fair point. I obviously get the point about the manager injuries, and obviously, there's no guarantees that you're going to be 2 or 3-0 up at half time to look at taking these players off. So, it's fair. We've got to look forward now, obviously, and see how we manage the rest of the season, because we've got enough teams that we're playing, looking at the fixture list now, that if we just bank, obviously, we've got to focus on what we didn't do at the end of last season was not taking points against lesser opposition. We've got enough teams that are below us, significantly below us in the league, that we need to go and get 3 points off of. And hopefully that means that ultimately the games against the bigger teams have got less pressure on, but we should have enough points to hopefully get over the line this season.
Have you seen the fixtures? They're proper weird. Sorry, I've just dropped in on you again, Jamie.
You're making a habit of that.
I've just looked at them now, and it's like the next up, we've got a few games against Leicester teams: Burnley, Brighton, Sheffield United.
You need to take 9 points.
Yeah, and then it's a complete 180. And then we play Man U, Man City, and West Ham, who are up there this season. So 3 tough games. And then we've got 4 again against pretty crappy teams: West Brom, Palace, Southampton, Newcastle. And then the end of the season, we got Man U, Chelsea, Spurs. So it's proper hard again. So it's like there's no middle ground. And these 3 games, I say, they're against lesser teams. I think we need to sort our formation style out in these games and get on top of it now. If we don't in these 3 games, when we come up against the big teams that are in and around us, they are genuine 6-pointers. We could be we could put ourselves out the running in those games. So sorry, Jamie, you can talk now.
No, you've actually thank you for the permission. But you've actually teed up my question, because I saw something on Twitter where it had been suggested that against Burnley, we basically completely rest the key players that need a break. So I'd guess that would mean Tielemans, Vardy, you probably want at least one of the fullbacks, and essentially just give all the kids a go. So the likes of Tavares, Vontae Campbell, and probably a few others that we haven't seen or heard of, to get everyone completely fit before heading into the runs because then you've got the likes of Brighton, Sheffield United. There's a week's gap. There's actually 8 days between the 2 games, so you're able to get your full squad completely fit and head into these matches with a nice break. Krys, what do you think about that as an idea, or do you think that we've got to go all out and try and get 3 points against Burnley?
I mean, first of all, Burnley's record, again, just from memory, against top teams is woeful. They just, I don't know, like they sort of capitulate, like the way they played against Spurs most recently. Like they might as well have not been on the pitch, to be fair. So, but I don't know. I think it's partly a myth, like going to Burnley is like a tough place to go. I don't know, like maybe for crowds there, but like ultimately, like they are. But then again, like I don't know, it's difficult because like if we play a literal youth team or put like 2 or 3 youth faces in there at professional level, that is you are potentially carrying 3 men there, or boys if you like. So you got to be careful, because like you don't want to go to Burnley and get humiliated. I'm not saying they're going to put like 3 or 4 past us. I mean, that's a bit unrealistic, to be fair. But like going there and even losing, it can't in any sense be seen as a good result, because we've rested players. Like you need to go to Burnley and win. Fair enough, if he puts trust in the youth and they pull it up, pull out the bag, good. But there's no denying, if you're playing a weaker team in any Premier League game, you're running the risk of getting shown up by an experienced team.
Yeah. I know. I completely agree, and it is a risk. And Ed, do you agree? And do you think that we've got to go with our strongest available 11.
Yeah, like I'm all for in the cups, as you'll know, resting just about everyone unless it's a later stage or against a big team. But like, let's say we rest everyone and we lose. It's like, well done. There's 3 losses on the bounce. Good vibes in the changing rooms. But don't worry, lads. Vardy's had an extra day's rest. It's like I don't see the value in it personally, especially when you said there's an 8-day gap not too far around the corner. This is like we lose a couple more matches and then it was like Liverpool territory. I know they won the last game, but they just went on that run of losing 4 or 5 in a row or whatever, and they've slipped all the way down. And that table, we've been sitting pretty all season, like second or third, and it's sort of like a false position. Like if you actually look at the table, and yeah, even after games in hand, we probably would still be second or third. But if you actually look like all the way down to like 9th or something like that, if they win their games in hand, we're like 6 points off 9th or something. And it's like, well, it's very easy to drop very fast. If likewise, if we go on a mad run and win 4 or 5 in a row, we could be like 10 points clear of second, third or something like that. But because of this, it's there's so many teams in the mix. I don't think this is the time to be taking risks like that. I say we put the best team out, and if we have to rest players, and Krys won't like me saying this, but I'm sorry, we've got a cup game in a few weeks.
No, Rodgers has even come out and said that his FA Cup's a priority now. It's not going to happen. We're not resting players in a quarter final.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if they need to be rested, I would rather it be then than in a Premier League where we have shown over the last 2 seasons that we are capable of being a top 4 side. But if we are to throw that away twice, that is not a good look for us. And
we've not shown that we've not shown that we're capable of being a top 4 side. We've done quite the opposite.
Last season, if it wasn't for the COVID break, it's what happened after the COVID. We chucked it away.
No, we was already struggling before COVID. Let's not make any mistakes.
If we cut all of this season out, yeah, and then add all that to all the pre-COVID stuff, I imagine we would be second and third in the table and quite way ahead of the 5th team. So I think, other than that bad run of, was it 8 games, 8 to 10, something like that? I think we've probably displayed at least we're top 6 standard, at least. And I don't think we can afford this season, because look at the other teams that are around us. There's teams like West Ham, there's teams like Everton, Spurs are back in the mix. You know, these could be teams that we could be vying for players to help strengthen our squad next season. And if they get into the Champions League instead of us, then, you know, Everton's got a better, more immediate history other than us winning the league. You know, West Ham's a London-based club. Spurs have had a better history and is a London-based club. They immediately become more attractive propositions.
I'm not sure what about Everton's immediate history is better than ours. I was going to put you up for that. So I think
other than the last 5 years, I'm not sure how we can say we compete with Everton. Have been seen as like a top 6 or 8 team for just about our entire life. Whereas we've spent about 7 years in the Premier League in our life.
Sorry, just quickly. I googled Everton trophy, and it basically the first thing that came up were a load of images of empty trophy cabinets. So my guess is that they've not won anything of note in quite some time.
I don't think Everton have won anything since Millennium, and Leicester have.
Yeah.
So I mean,
if you're being pedantic about that, like I'm.
I think all I'm saying is, if Everton get into the Champions League and we finish in the Europa League spots, and we both go for the same player, a call from Carlo Ancelotti and the offer of Premier League, your Champions League football.
Yeah, that's not the point you made.
What about
would
Ed, what
make
about if
them
we
prefer
both
to go
finish?
there.
Ed, what about if we both finish in the Champions League? Who do you think would be the bigger pool?
Probably, well, on a blank slate where there's no pre-existing relationship, or say they're not Italian who may like Ancelotti or whatever, I'd probably say us. But
I mean, to be fair, Ancelotti's CV is remarkable. Like, I'm not afraid in saying he's the better manager.
No, he's got an
Has he won the
unbelievable
SPL?
record.
Well,
Like 15 times, whatever it is, something stupid. Right, so a chance for you both to put your necks on the line then a little bit, because like Ed says, it is extremely close. Apart from Man City, who are just running away with it. I've just seen a remarkable stat on their game so far. They've had nearly 90% of possession against Wolves, and the game's been on for quite some time. But they're running away with it. I think we can say pretty safely that they're going to go on to win the league. So that leaves, if you're looking at top six, that leaves five places left. So what is your top six prediction for the end of the year? So if you want to, Ed, if you'd like to put your neck out there first, Krys, give you a bit of time to get the league table up so you can just make it. But where do you see this ending up?
Yes, I think, like you said, I don't think we're going to catch Man City now. I'm willing to say that. Although we did, what was the score when we played them?
5-2.
Fuck, we got 5. They've only conceded 16 goals this year, and we've got a third of them.
I don't know. I'm almost certain that's right.
We scored a few.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Wait,
so basically, you're saying they've scored 16. They've conceded 16 goals this season, and Vardy scored 3 of them.
Yeah, we got. Yeah, they've conceded 16 goals, and we got 4 of them in the second half. So in 45 minutes, we got a quarter of all the goals they've let in. What a result!
Incredible.
But yeah,
anyway, they've won their last 19 games or something.
I think Chelsea have turned a corner, and I think if they can sort their attack out, I think they will probably get top 4. I think I want to say Liverpool because their attack, but their defense is just not good. So I'm going to say Liverpool aren't going to get in the top 4. I think Man U probably will do enough this season to get in the top 4. And I think West Ham will fall away. Not embarrassingly, but I just don't think they'll be competitive at the end of the year. I think it was going to be us, Spurs. I don't think Everton will. Us or Spurs. And if that's the case, we've got a 10-point lead with 3 games, and they've only got 1 game in hand. So at worst, it's 7 points ahead with 12 remaining. Do we have it in us to throw that away? We've done it before.
It was a lot worse. More points to throw away.
We've done it before. I think it's going to happen again, isn't it? We're going to come 4th or 5th, and it's going to be right at the end. I don't like our last 3 games of the season. That concerns me a lot.
So your top 6 reading down is Man City, Man United, Chelsea, Leicester, Liverpool, and down into 5th, and then I don't know who
Spurs above Liverpool.
Okay, so Spurs and then Liverpool.
But I'm just
so that is your top 6.
Yeah, I'm a little unsure about Leicester and Spurs, but I'm going to be positive vibes and say we'll come 4th.
Right, Krys, go on. Your chance.
I've been jotting away, and I've gone for Liverpool coming 6th. Then it's Leicester or Spurs. Obviously, I'm going to side with Leicester because say it's even a 7-point swing with a game in hand, like Mourinho for me. Obviously, he's won a lot of stuff, but maybe he's turned the corner. And if he plays that attacking 4 week in, week out, obviously again he has to manage it, and he's in Europa League as well. And beating Burnley 4-0 is, maybe not a fair sort of a test, but if they play attacking football, they're a threat. If they play traditional Mourinho stuff, then they shouldn't be up there. But okay, so I'm going to put Spurs 5th, Leicester 4th, Man U 3rd. I do think Chelsea they are looking a lot more compact. They do need to create more, but they've got a strong enough squad with enough superstars or good players in there to definitely be scoring more goals. So Chelsea second, and Man City. It's just how many points they're going to and how many goals they're going to end up scoring this season. But hopefully fourth. But I think if we bottle top four again, I think it will be classed as, probably it won't be as remarkable as bottling as last year, but we are going to start building a bit of and this will be the reason why we're not taken seriously in debates, is because we're not actually finishing in the top four. We're doing well to be up there, but we do fade. So hopefully we don't fade this year. And fourth for me.
I'd be semi-concerned if we throw it away again as maybe some end of an era type shit. Like, I don't want to paint too bad picture.
With the young squad we've got, you're calling it an end of an era.
No, I'm saying there will be some players that will want to be playing and are good enough as well to be playing Champions League football. And
God damn it, you've literally nicked my next question.
I'm ever so sorry, but it just came. Like, people like Tielemans, people like Ricardo, people like Ndidi, even Soyuncu, Barnes. He's even been linked with Liverpool. I swear I saw at some stage. Like, these players, and at the end of the day, we can't expect all players to be like Jamie Vardy, who, yes, he's earned like club legend status for it, but he easily could have left, and he was very close to leaving to Arsenal, wasn't he? And we've been selling one a year anyway. But if we mess it up twice, and a team who didn't mess it up, even like Man U, for example, they've not only got the money bags, but they've shown on both occasions, like if they get it this year and last year, even when they've done poorly, they can get top four and get deeper into competitions than us. So I would have some concerns about that. Like, we've got some very good young players, but you know what? That also means that other people see we've got lots of very good young players, and they're going to be targets, and it will be seen as a step up. We can keep hold of them if we can say, why would you leave? Why would you go to a different club to play Champions League football? You can do that here, mate. But if we can't offer that, it's a bit doom like thinking. I can't even think of the right word, but it's true.
No, you made a fair point, 2000. I guess I was looking at it a bit two-dimensional in terms of me thinking that they haven't got a better reason to leave. But I think, obviously Champions League football, the one that does worry me most of all is Ndidi. I think I could see him. You can easily see him going for I'm not going to say commanding a world record fee, but he is an incredible player. So, and obviously it concerns me when I see us being linked with, like, for some reason it is always in France, but these lesser known defensive midfielders, and all I'm thinking is that in one hand us raising the hand of sort of resignation that he is as good as gone potentially, even if we do get into the Champions League, because how many times will well, who knows who's in for him, but say like a Man City, like how many times do they come calling in your career? Even if you're in a Champions League and say a huge, well, I'm going to say like, I don't know, Bayern Munich or something come in for you. Do you gamble in your career at any stage like that?
I mean, we've seen players leave with mixed success, haven't we? But there were some that were clearly destined to do good things. I mean, Mahrez and Drinkwater are two with really contrasting fortunes, aren't they? But I mean, because there are whispers of a new contract for Tielemans. Barnes is reportedly being offered a new deal as well. So the club are obviously moving to try and either negate them leaving or get the best possible fee. But I agree with you. I think if we don't get Europe at even some point in some stage, it could be disastrous for us. It's a really crucial season for Leicester. It gives us that opportunity to cement ourselves. We're constantly talking about the big six and how Leicester don't get the same media attention or whatever, but we need to be getting consistent European football to be considered one of the big clubs, I think. And if we fall out again, then that really does start to put the pressure on and cast a bit of a shadow over the club. But look, let's try and be positive. We've still got some really, really talented players in the squad. Hopefully, there are a few coming back from injury. Maddison's hopefully isn't as bad as it seems. Fofana will be back soon. So Perez back as well. So look, fingers crossed. But look, we've spoken about the Burnley game.
In a minute. And just what I know this isn't relevant at the time of people listening to podcasts, but how stupid is VAR and just how much is it ruining the game? Because I'm looking at pictures of Laporte's armpit getting measured for a potential offside, and I'm just thinking, you see how it's literally every week, like some of the nonsense that's going on in the Premier League. Why is this only happening in Premier League? Maybe it does happen in other, but you just don't ever hear about these absolute catastrophes going on in like the Bundesliga or at Champions League level. Like, are we just why is it happening here so much? And like, yeah, that's just a little mini rant. Really, I don't even need a conversation. I'm starting to get a bit.
I like to do it because I'm interested in this. People don't like it, do they? When you compare football to like rugby or cricket or other sports, but the videos that have been circulating on social media by football fans commenting on football in other countries, how they're doing VAR correctly and better than us, it's exactly the same as they do it in other sports. They have it so the people watching can hear it. It's on a screen so everyone can see it, and everyone's following the situation. And it's just like, this thing with the little TV on the side of the pitch is like an absolute joke. Why does he have to go to a little private screen no one else can see? Like, what's he
but I'm
watching?
not even sure. Do you know what? I think that we could have them mic'd up, and I think they'd still absolutely butcher it, because like what Lee Mason was doing at the weekend in that Brighton West Brom game is inexcusable. Like that, you're literally. These are like referees who are getting paid, 200 grand a year, I think is a reported sort of fee for a high-end Premier League ref, and they're just so incompetent. Like, I honestly, I think miking them up would just be, I think they'd crumble under the pressure. I think the fact that, I don't know, like, I just think there's just totally, but I do think it's generally, my point being, it's taking away from the excitement of the game. You just sort of know that something stupid's going to happen. It's going to be related to sort of VAR, and it's just boring now, to be fair. But whatever, like, you got to deal with it, I guess. But still, it doesn't make it any. Everyone thought that when VAR came in, it'd be clear-cut decisions. But the fact is, it's not. And the fact is that we're probably discussing controversial decisions more now than what we would have before if the linesman got the call wrong.
What do you think, Jamie?
Yeah, I agree. I think that it was a great idea, but the way they've used it has been horrendous. And I think you're right when you see them drawing the lines to the millimetre and ruling goals out because someone's armpit is adjudged to be offside. It's just, I don't think that's what it was there for. And I think that the biggest issue comes to the actual quality of the referees, and I personally don't think it's good enough. But I always stand by the point as well that I think that is a deeper issue in the game, and that who would become a referee when you see the amount of abuse you see the top refs get, and you think what it's like at grassroots level. It's an absolute disgrace. So you can see why there is a dearth of quality, because there's simply not enough people willing to be a referee. It's a thankless job, isn't it? But yeah, I agree. VAR bad in summary. Right, are we able to put some predictions on the Burnley game very quickly before we wrap this up? Edmund.
Okay,
Burnley.
I have got a point to make after this in the final proceedings. But regarding the score, I see a 2-0 win. I am predicting this based on the fact I think we're going to play a system that matches the players we have available, and I think that means we're going to have, we might play a Marty, who I absolutely think is not a great player for what we want to do, but play him as a centre back in a back three, have the wing backs bombing on. I think we'll be better with that. So we'll be solid at the back as well as creating going forward. Burnley are not a great team. They've just been thrashed by Spurs, who haven't been in goal-scoring form of late, I don't think. So 2-0 for me. However, it's a massive game. If we lose this as well, I will start having major concerns about what's going to happen for the rest of this season.
Okay, and Krys, what do you reckon?
Well, our away record is like for like, other than conceding 3 goals more than Man City. So you're in good company. Whereas Burnley's home record is, I don't think they've won a home game in a while. Basically, my level of knowledge there. But I didn't have a good feeling against Slavia, and that was on air. This one's just got a 0-0 written all over it, hasn't it? No one wants a 0-0 on a Wednesday night at 6 p.m. But let's hope it's 1-0 Leicester. But if I had to put a bet on what I'm feeling, it'll be 0-0 all.
I think it'll be 1-0 to Leicester. I think we'll play 5 at the back, as Ed's alluded to. Amati, I think Fuchs will come back in, and he'll try and utilise his remaining best players, which are his wing backs. Which, Ed, I think that was your idea, but yeah, and you know what? I'd take the world's scrappiest 1-0. I think it's just an uber important game just to get the result and do it in any means necessary. And let's hope Rodgers is willing to play dirty to do that. Right, gents, I have to go.
Okay, well, you sort your child out. I'll have a discussion.
Yeah,
I'll have a
I'm
discussion.
sure you've been able to hear. I'm sure you've been able to hear.
I assume that was your child and not Sarah.
You assumed correctly. But yeah, thanks.
Or anyone else's child, for that matter.
He's not, I don't think he's feeling particularly great. So I'm going to go and help out. But yeah, feel free to close it off and enjoy that.
Right, cheers, Jamie. Bye.
Bye.
Krys,
that's the real side of parenting there firsthand.
Here's the point I wanted to bring up. I'm reading an article in the Leicester Mercury online, now known as Leicestershire Live, and it says
the adverts have to close.
There's a few adverts, didn't have to close any though, so I got lucky this time. I won't tell you what the adverts are, but
it's not them ones again, is it?
Right, the article says Leicester City are reportedly keeping tabs on Sporting Lisbon manager Ruben Amorim as a contingency plan in case Brendan Rodgers leaves the club. This is amid reports that Tottenham Hotspur would be interested in getting Rodgers if they were to let go of Mourinho.
There's a few layers to this. One, no idea who this manager is.
He's 35 years of age.
I'm getting bad grip.
Go on, sorry.
I'm not sure. Is Paulo Sousa, was he Portuguese? Because well, either way, that's why I'm just getting haunting memories of that. But 2, well, and I guess it's not a lot of money. But if you're going to buy Mourinho out of his contract, I think it's going to cost. I say not a lot of money. I mean, it is. I think it's 25 million or something. So I don't know how rushed Spurs are going to be to do that. And 3, I don't know. Like, there's other managers out there. Obviously, I think it's like Julian Nagelsmann, who's a fashionable young manager. Hopefully, they'll turn to someone like that. But yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, yeah, he'd certainly be one of the favourites, wouldn't he? So it'd be worrying.
Well, we've had the Spurs versus Leicester chat several times before, but this isn't your opinion what you'd do. Let's say this all does happen and Spurs offer something stupid like, didn't we pay Celtic like 8 million or something for Rodgers? Let's say that let's assume that's true. Let's say they double it to like between 15 and 20 million, and we say, look, Brendan, we don't want you to go. We'll give you whatever you want, but they've made this offer. We've had to accept it. Talk to them. Spurs give him the offer, promising them exactly the same as what we've promised him. What do you think he'd do?
Well, I get the point you're making. It's unrealistic, so I don't see Spurs paying like 50 mil to get rid of and bring in a manager. But, say it does happen. Your point being that if it's a level playing field and there's nothing else other than just a clean decisions for Brendan to make, I think that he's shown no loyalty in his career. And I think that he would regard Spurs as the bigger. It's not even about being the bigger club. Like that's fair enough if you think they are because of various reasons. That's fair, but I think it's a bigger job. I think not a bigger job because it's harder. I'm saying like, you've got a lot. Arguably, you're going into a club with a lot more potential, purely because of playing personnel. I think if you got players like Harry Kane. You still got players like Dele Alli who are obviously being reintroduced and stuff, like you're saying, it's things like with Spurs potentially being in Europe and the fact they've had more European experience, it's hard to put a case together for Leicester, isn't it? I think especially if we do start fading this year, it wouldn't be the first season that we've done that. Whilst I do partly obviously put that down to Brendan Rodgers because he's got a form of doing it at other clubs, I do think he's also got a form of not really showing any, loyalty in his career. And I think that it's only natural that in any career you try and go for a bigger job opening. So it'd be worrying times, wouldn't it? I think it's just whether Spurs do generally. Well, I'm sure he would be on their shortlist. So they will definitely want to speak to him.
Well, this manager, the Sporting Lisbon manager, is a former Benfica player and Portuguese international. Let me just Google him.
I want to know what.
Yeah,
Ben.
Ruben Amorim. He's 36 years of age, so very much an up-and-coming player. That was, of course, is younger than our club captain, Wes Morgan, who I think is he's 37.
I'm just thinking, what's given this? It's bizarre on so many levels. Like, what could be so impressive about this guy's CV that we'd be like? Leicester City, like you're saying, we want to be on the global map of football. Like, why on earth would we? Presumably, this is his first managerial job as well.
Yeah, he's doing well this year, though. He, in the league, they've got 55 points from 21 games. So they've dropped 8 points. So what's that? 4 draws and 17 wins from 21 matches. So I'm assuming that's what the link is. Whether it's true or not, assuming it is, that would be the link.
Well, it's interesting because then you Google him and you go on news results and it's one of the articles is almost word for word similar to what you've said, but for Leeds, that Ruben Amorim profiled as Leeds United mate contingency plan over Marcelo Bielsa's situation.
Oh, there you go. Maybe it could just be the guy's agent. Like, managers are no different to players these days. Maybe he's seeking a move to a Premier League side and putting some feelers out there saying these established teams are looking at him, so maybe he can get a bigger job than one in the Portuguese league. Who knows? But just thought I'd share the news, as obviously player moves are more spoken about, but arguably a change in manager will have a bigger effect on our
don't get me wrong,
fortunes.
though. Don't get me wrong, because I'm reading about his playing style and it excites me. Not to say I want to get rid of Rodgers, but I mean, there's worse managerial players.
Platonically.
You're looking at, he plays a high pressing 3-4-3. So, it's similar to Leeds United's sort of system because, then it's a constant press. And then obviously when defending, they drop into a 5-4-1. So, I mean, it's sort of similar, like, to the way you say you want Leicester City to play. I mean, we've definitely not got the players to do that. I mean, like I said, I would be worried if we're linked with someone like this purely because of his playing style. I think whilst I've not got any other managers to mind, like we'd surely want someone with a good CV. I don't know, but
Guardiola.
Well, yeah, I mean, it could be looking for new challenges next year. So, but no, I don't know. Like, you don't want to be thinking about a departure yet, do you? Or really ever.
Well, yeah, I thought I'd share that, but other than that, I genuinely don't have any more to add. Which one thing is quite a small amount for me to add at the end. So, yeah.
No, yeah, that's good. Well, Jamie's left us, so I guess we're gonna have to wrap it up. Well, I say we're not both going to do it. I'll just say again, thank you for everyone listening.
Right, start again. Sound a bit more enthusiastic. You sound like you're going to.
I was still reading. I was reading the bottom of this Leeds article. I've got distracted. But now, yeah, obviously it's been a bit of a bumper episode. I think it's about an hour once we cut out the off-air introduction. So yeah, it's been a good one. Hopefully, I think maybe I'm sounding a bit down as well because obviously, Burnley away on a Wednesday. It's not one to really get yourself G'd up for. But nonetheless, hopefully next time of recording, it'll probably be after the Burnley and the Brighton games. Hopefully 6 points within the bank and a more confident looking top 4 finish. But nonetheless, yes, hope you enjoyed the episode. Send your feedback as always. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you on Twitter. So yeah, have a good week, guys.